All right, hello, and welcome to another Excalcast. It is Monday, the 15th of October. So today's topic is bullying, and now we are basing our discussion today off of the Amanda Todd tragedy, which took place in BC around a week ago. I am joined today by Alex Hum and Leslie Armweek, or whatever she called herself last week. Armstrong is her actual last name. I'm Phil Darlington. My question to start things off to the two of you, and I'll include myself in this discussion, is: have either of you ever been bullied in school or out?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that there are different degrees of bullying, and I can't appropriate Amanda Todd's tragic story as my own, but I think that we all have been bullied a little bit. I mean, in high school, people gave me a hard time. You know, they thought I was weird, or like maybe they wouldn't want to eat lunch with me, and little things like that, everyday things. That's all part of a bigger picture. I definitely have been through that for a couple of years in high school, and even in middle school. I mean, it's not for any particular reason, even just for the reason that sometimes kids didn't get along with each other.
I think in terms of bullying, I think it's sort of like an exponential thing. It has a lot to do with circumstance. So sometimes something will happen. Let's say you're in a class and you say something stupid, and people call you out on your comment. If it depends on how you react in that situation at that time. So if that happens that day and you happen to be having a crappy day, you can brush it off and then walk away from it, and then the bullying stops there. But let's say you're in a circumstance where you're having a really crappy day and you have no way of defending yourself. I think that's kind of where it starts. So it's really exponential. Like, one thing can lead to another, and I think that's what happened with Amanda Todd. And I think that for me, I think I was sort of vulnerable in that case, and I'm surprised I wasn't bullied more in high school. But I think I had good circumstances on my side.
Interesting. So, I mean, this might get a little deep, but could you cite some examples of the kinds of bullying that the two of you either witnessed or had done to you?
I've witnessed a lot of things, and I'll probably bring those up later in the discussion. But I do want to bring this closer to home a little bit, and I do know that this. This isn't nearly the same thing that Amanda Todd or many of these other kids now have to go through in North America. But something that did happen to me, and I remember, and this is just one instance, was my school, every year in high school from grade 9 to grade 12, we go on a trip that we call Experience Week, right? And we fly, you choose a destination, you go with the school, each trip has like 20 to 30 kids, and you fly somewhere where you do community service or adventure trips, and you look at like art and culture and stuff. And I remember even in my senior year, the most popular trip was a trip to the Philippines, where we got to where we were going to swim with dolphins and stuff like that. And I was friends with a group of guys. There were 5 of them and 1 of me. Very specifically, I was not part of that group, right? So it wasn't 6 of us; it was 5 of them and then me. And you always apply as pairs, because you room in with like 2 by 2, and obviously, we're all talking like, hey, where do you want to go, and like, who do you want to room with and stuff like that. And as the 6th person, I always sort of fit in, but not really. Basically, the dynamic of that group was I didn't really have anyone else to hang out with, and I know that they didn't really want me there, but then they kind of let me be part of that group anyway. And actually, I remember feeling really terrible because they told me that they were going to go on different trips. They were going to go somewhere else. They were going to go to Poland or Cambodia, Vietnam, all these other trips, and not the Philippines, which is where I wanted to go. And then I thought, okay, well, I don't want to just follow them, so I'm going to apply to go on the Philippines trip, even if it's on my own. And what happens? We find out what trips we're on, and we meet as a group for the first time to organize ourselves and stuff. And lo and behold, the 5 of them are sitting in front of me. So, I mean, basically they orchestrated that, and they tried to push me out of that group. No, I mean, knowing full well that I was probably going to find out anyway, right? That was, I mean, I wasn't depressed or anything like that, not seriously, but, I mean, that was a shitty day.
I think that just goes to show that, like, when it comes to bullying, I think sort of a human flaw that a lot of people have, and very few people don't have, and it's the mark of a good person if you don't have this, people are super suggestive. So, like, if someone makes a comment about you, people like creating communities about anything. Mm-hmm. And so, if you want to create a community about something, all you need to do is start it off with your own opinion, backed by humor or wit, intelligence, some kind of thing like that. It sounds sort of like someone was creating a community around something stupid, like making a jab at someone. Mm.
So, okay, now that we've sort of established sort of where we're coming from, and I might cite this later where I'm coming from in terms of bullying. In the case of Amanda Todd, the Globe and Mail is asking what students have found works to either deter or combat bullying in their schools, and I thought maybe we should talk about some things that maybe we have found useful or seen other people utilize in order to in order to combat bullying, in order to prevent it, in order to help to change the way people think about bullying and how they treat others.
I hope I'm not too pessimistic about this. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who say that they would never bully, and they think it's a bad thing, and yet they do it every day without even knowing. So maybe the problem is that we need to properly identify what bullying is. And maybe I feel like there are so many different types of it that we lose track. Mm-hmm. And we don't know the things we're doing are actually bullying. I'm sure that today I've bullied someone. I mean, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I think what we need to do is properly identify it and talk about all the different types there are, because there are many different types. And when people talk about it in school, they talk about it in a very plain, static way. And they talk about, this is bullying, this is physical bullying, this is verbal bullying, and they categorize it. But maybe they don't categorize it profoundly enough. Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I think that when it comes to bullying, there are so many little things that slip through the cracks, right? There are so many ways that people get bullied and you don't even realize it. For example, my own case, like, if I told that story, I mean, it doesn't sound anything like a lot of these bullying stories that happen on the news, because it's really not that severe. I don't get hurt in any kind of significant traumatic way, but at the core of that is a very everyday kind of bullying that everybody goes through. Maybe not everyone has the same kind of tragic story as Amanda Todd, if they're fortunate enough. But everyone gets picked on, everyone gets ignored sometimes, shunned, excluded in some way. So I do think that you raise a really good point, Leslie, about really keeping a closer focus on what it means to be bullied.
Mm-hmm. So just to cite a couple of examples and sort of what I've experienced. When I was in grade school, not that you can see me now, but I currently stand tall at 6'5". But all the way up from grade school, all the way through until the end of grade 9, I was the same height, if not shorter, than even the girls. So I was always the smaller one, which means I was an easier target to get picked on just because of my size. And I think that's to do with people seeing a potential weakness. I'm not at all calling Amanda Todd weak. I think, however, that people need to learn to stand up to their bullies and show that they're not going to take it, because oftentimes all it takes is somebody, even if it's not the person being bullied, all it takes is somebody to say, hey, cut that out, or just to show that they're not going to stand for this in order to for it to stop, because a lot of times people will just do it because they can think it's all right. If nobody ever says anything, they're going to say, oh, well, what I'm doing is not a big deal. It takes someone a lot of times, just even one comment, to say, hey, look, you're being like a dick, or that's not cool what you're doing, kind of thing. And you don't have to say it like that, because I know we've all seen the bully presentations at school and we all think they're super lame, and people don't actually speak like that. And to some extent I agree with those comments, but it is important for people to stand up to their bullies. And oftentimes the bullies that I've seen, they're not on their own. Yes, they do exist where people are, have a strong enough personality where they can bully others on their own, but a lot of the times it's with a group of people. So, all it takes sometimes is one other person to see it from your point of view in order for you to have a little bit more strength on your side, to make you feel that you are not in the wrong, that there's nothing wrong with you. A clear example of this, now this is not a case of me being bullied, and the person being bullied in this case, I don't think actually was well aware of it. I mean, they may be aware of this kind of stuff in general, but about a month ago, I was working at my other job, which is at a pool, and there's a gentleman who comes and swims there. Now he's paraplegic. He doesn't have any use of his legs, and so he swims, and he has to swim in a modified way because he can't kick. And I saw two younger people in the upstairs viewing gallery pointing at him and laughing. I could tell they were making comments at his expense. So I went to the two boys afterwards, and I pointed out, I said, look, you think you're cool for laughing at a guy who can't use his legs? Next time I see this, it won't be me you're dealing with. I know that the university takes great offense to that kind of stuff. We're trying to be a very inclusive community, and quite frankly, to put it bluntly, people won't stand for that kind of shit.
You're so cool, Phil. I wish I could be like that.
It's, what? I know it goes back to the idea of, I'm not that kind of person. Well, too bad. Not everybody, I don't think anybody is born strong enough to just stand up to people who they feel are belittling. It just takes one time to just say something. Even if, you've got a shaky voice and it's your first time and you're not that confident, just the first time you do it, you'll notice a difference. The fact that you pointed something out makes a difference. You don't have to be a tattletale, but just point something out to someone.
Yeah, you don't start a precedent.
Yeah.
I think you touch on a really important point there too, is that because bullying usually happens when it's a group of kids or a group of people, they band together and then they're unified under this idea of like, oh, hey, let's all, get enjoyment or entertainment at this person's expense. It's not a big deal. And then there's this pseudo sense of camaraderie in this group, and it's kind of sick and twisted. But when you get people alone and you talk to them one-on-one, you realize that very rarely these people are bad people, right? Most of these people are actually very good, hopefully law-abiding people with a conscience. And the problem with bullying is really only when these people get together. So in terms of combating bullying, one thing that I think needs to be done, and this kind of leads into another topic, is that the authority, whoever it may be, like the school, the teachers, the principal, maybe some of the older kids in school who have a little bit more responsibility, it really just takes someone to, as you said, interfere and be like, hey, like, what do you think you're doing? Take one of these kids aside and be like, so how do you really feel? Like, do you really feel that you're gaining something by making fun of this kid? Like, most often it's about fitting in, being cool, or whatever, being part of this greater group that you want to identify with.
Yeah.
And that sense of camaraderie, or whatever you were talking about, is made even easier by the platform of the internet, which is the big fear about bullying these days, is that now that we have the internet, it's so hard to keep track of it, and people love being able to hide behind a screen. It's so much easier to hide behind a screen and preach things that you believe in.
Yeah.
Because people, if you're sitting across from someone and you say something that you view and it's wrong, then someone's going to lash out at you.
Yeah.
But no one lashes out at you on the internet, and you're safe. You're safe to say whatever you want and be a horrible person.
And that's cowardice.
It is. But what do we do about that? Like, is there anything we can do about that?
I think two ideas need to be fostered here. One is, no, my skin does not need to be thicker. It's you need to be less of an ass. You know,
I agree with that.
I'm another human being just like you, and you need to understand that if I don't like something, or that if I don't like something that you're saying, you need to stop. And also, you don't need to be saying this in the first place. You know, whatever happened to keeping your mouth shut if you don't have anything nice to say. And the other thing is, grow a thicker skin, because sometimes people are joking around. I mean, yes, it's different for everybody, but I am of the belief that it's pretty easy to tell when somebody's telling a joke and when somebody's serious, even if they're on the web, right? It's all in how they word things, and people need to learn not to get offended by certain things and to get offended by others. It all depends on the context and how much of it. If someone just makes a little crack here or there and it's not really true, and you know it doesn't happen on a regular basis, then chances are it wasn't bullying. I'm not saying it wasn't, but chances are it's probably not. But if it's a regularly reoccurring thing, then yeah, I think we can safely say that's bullying.
I agree with, well, more so your first point than your second. I think that it is this something that we commonly think of in terms of bullying is that it's up to whoever's being bullied to stand up to the bullies, and that is a very it's a reactive way of dealing with bullying, right? Where I've seen more effectively in my own school, because in Hong Kong my school took you in one building from kindergarten up until grade 12, and we were in one giant school, but everyone was in one building,
mm-hmm.
right? So it's a little bit different here, where people are separated in age groups. But in my school, what they do is they teach core family values. When people are at a very young age, when they enter the school, the teaching staff goes out of their way to impress these kind of very best foot forward, community-centric kind of values. So actually for me in my school, serious bullying like this was never really an issue. Obviously you have kids picking on each other, that's a different story because that happens everywhere. But bullying was never an issue, and I think that has a lot to do with the way that the teaching staff took responsibility, and from a young age it's impressed upon these kids that, everyone is equal, you're all human beings, and you take responsibility for your own actions and the people around
mm-hmm.
you, right? So there isn't this idea of like, oh, well, you're being bullied, just, say something, stand up to them.
Yeah.
Pick a fight with them and they'll respect you. There is none of that. It's very like, we try to stop bullying at the root of it, so that there is no bullying.
Yeah. 30 seconds, any final comments, Leslie?
I just think that people need to stop being cowards. That's what bullying is at the root of it.
Mm.
People need to realize that they don't look smart, they look stupid.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll leave this topic open. Obviously, these are just our views, what's worked for us, what we've observed. If you have any comments, feel free to write to us as usual, or you can tweet us at Excalweb. So for October 15th, 2012, I'm Phil Darlington.
Alex Hum.
Leslie Armstrong.